Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Simon Slupick of Silvair Technologies out of Poland. Believe it or not, yeah. He came on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast to tell us all about Bluetooth mesh networks, man. I still think it's a little bit of niche technology, Greg, but I think it's going to come on strong over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it sounds like based on what he talked about, is that is going to be the go-to protocol. Bluetooth mesh
right
for
word.
lighting. Yeah, so be ready for it.
In the meantime, you got to check out Aeon LED lighting. Why? They have what, Greg? The best sports
powerful
lighting. Woo!
Sports lighting, but also powerful floodlights, the ones you'll see up on screen today. They have from a 230 watt up to a 750 watt. And you know what 750 watts of LED means?
That's a hell of a lot of light.
A lot.
Yeah.
105,000 delivered lumens. And at only 67
Whoa!
pounds, it's still lightweight, but very durable die-cast design for high wear resistance, for harsh, extreme outdoor conditions, corrosive environments. This is the flood for you. With all those different options and lumen packages, you can't go wrong. So check out Aeon LED Lighting.
.com. Wow, did you say 100,000 lumens?
105,000 delivered lumens out of that 750 watt. That's like 140 lumens per watt out of a big boy.
That's called a crank, buddy. They're turning the crank there.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Go to naild.org. That's nailed.org, because you got to join us, man, for right now. Simon Slupick on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. Welcome to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, Simon.
Welcome. I'm happy to be your guest.
Cool.
Throw any questions at me. So.
Say hi to Greg Eric.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Simon. Good to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm going to kick this off. I've got a question, and I saw this on your website here. I know we're going to dive into commission and what you guys do, but first of all, you had a book here called A Tale of 5 Protocols: Bluetooth, Zigbee, Z-Wave, Thread, and Wi-Fi. Can you break down, are those all the 5 options that we have for lighting controls right now? Can you break those down a little bit for us?
Actually, at the time of writing that, I think it was a good couple of years ago, the first edition, and of course we keep updating that document, but at the time of writing, we thought they might have been the options, but then we kept on eliminating each of those, and that's really, it's a great segue into, I think, what we are going to discuss today. We initially, I started my interest in this lighting control and IoT back in 2008-9. It still was my kind of a hobby. Later on, we started the company in 2011 and had a first lighting control product on the market in 2012. And it was kind of obvious to me that there must have been protocols ready for lighting control, because lighting control didn't sound like anything special. And then we realized that none of the options really were applicable to bring the winning combination, something like that would really win the market. Today, the reality is that like 90-something% is still analog. There's no controls at all. And the question is, why is that?
I can answer that question.
Yes.
Because I can't, because there isn't an obvious value case to the end users.
Maybe yes, maybe not, depending also who are your end users, and depending on whether we just confine ourselves to lighting control as such, or we think broader, like what bringing connectivity to lighting, what other value-added services can it bring to the customers or to the users.
Yeah, see, right now, so we did a podcast this morning, and I've kind of come up with a meme on my show. and that I've been in selling lighting systems to people for 20 years, okay, for factories and commercial buildings and all this sort of stuff. And over the course of that time, I've seen 2 or 3 lighting control cycle busts, right? Where a type of lighting control system comes out, people try to take it to market, they get a few customers here and there, but the customers don't really use it. It's too complicated to commission, or they stop using it, or the controls don't work properly, or whatever. And you have, literally hundreds of legacy lighting control systems out there that aren't used. And I think it's because they're not useful. That's why, right?
Well,
if those legacy controls actually worked well, people would use them.
I think the problem is a little bit different.
Okay.
First of all, the problem is the return on your investment. So there is value, but I think the price of these systems is way too high today, and the complexity, including labor, installation time, facility downtime, and such, like the cost of all that combined is just too big to justify your investment. So you do nothing. That you just keep over lighting controls unless you're forced by legal regulations, which become more prevalent, right? Because like there are places like California where you just cannot refurbish your system. You must install lighting control system, and the same trend is happening in Europe. All these green movements and such. Like at some point, it will be even not considered a proper behavior to not conserve energy, I think. So it will be kind of a even social aspect of that as well. Like how you as the facility owner, how you as the user, how you're standing for or against the planet even.
So in between podcasts today, I did an energy audit because I have to sell light bulbs in addition to doing this. And a customer asked me to do one on lighting controls. I said, all right. So I put together the energy analysis. They already had LED tubes, so there's no lighting change. It's just going to be, let's straight up do controls on it. And I didn't put high margins on it. I went through everything, estimated, on the safe side of energy savings, didn't overdo what I thought the occupancies would do. And with rebate install material, it was a 10.4-year payback. So that's why
exactly my point. Well, like
yes.
exactly like 10 years, it's way too far ahead of you. Like who would do that? Like, so yeah, everybody wants to bring that down, and there are like a number of factors that I think what is happening now as a broader movement, broader initiative that we are part of, I think makes that possible. So labor is still a very significant cost of the total cost of ownership installation. So of course you can cut labor down for we are talking mostly about refurbishment projects, upgrades, not new build. Because for new builds, guiding wires through plenum and such, it's not that big deal. If you want to refurbish something, then installing wired controls is not an option. So you must go wireless. And then if you must go wireless, then there come a number of requirements that were really very hard to meet, or even were not met by the systems in the past. So they were not reliable enough, or they were not secure enough, or they were too complex to install, which also was bringing back us to this labor cost, because you needed highly trained installers. And yeah, we believe this is changing now. Well, if we meet like a year from now, then we may say, okay, we succeeded or failed, because we are still at this very beginning of this new cycle that is made possible by Bluetooth Mesh, which is the technology we support and develop.
So why is Bluetooth seem to be taking the lead here?
Yeah, I think again a constellation of factors. I think this cost factor is the most important, and there are a number of contributors to the cost. So first of all, Bluetooth, and I will enumerate them in no particular order, but first of all, Bluetooth makes it very, other words, Bluetooth makes it possible to make a system that is very easy to install. And this is because Bluetooth is the only viable technology that is present on any mobile device, like a phone or a tablet. So simply you can automate this whole installation process with an app. People know how to use apps today. They use apps for a variety of things that were difficult before. Now with an app, like if there's an app for something, then people know what to do with that. And the beauty of Bluetooth is that a phone app can communicate directly to a lighting system to commission it, to configure, to adjust settings, to check whether it's working properly or not. So it all feels kind of familiar. So you don't need this, highly trained technicians with laptops, with Ethernet wires, with switch boxes and other parts of equipment that are or were necessary to install. So that
Like
cost factor,
routers and Cat5 cable and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, sure.
yes. So that's one thing. The second thing is that it lowers the barrier for component manufacturers like sensor manufacturers or driver manufacturers, wall station manufacturers. Why? Because first of all, it's a global radio standard. So you don't need, for example, different SKUs for different geographies. So you just launch one product, and that product can be sold in the US, in Canada, in Japan, in Russia, in Australia, everywhere. It's a global standard, global thing. That's very important. Secondly, Bluetooth is a one-stop shop in terms of what we call device qualification or certification. So Bluetooth covers the entire technology stack from the radio layer through networking up to application. So things like sensing, lighting controls, down is mesh, and at the very low level, it's the Bluetooth low energy, which is the radio. And the only thing you need to do is to list your product, which is a single fee per product type, and you're done. You don't need to deal with multiple organizations who are owning different parts of that stack. So it's for example, like what happened before lighting, what happened to personal audio. So today, you don't really have any other options for building wireless headsets or personal speakers other than Bluetooth, right? And because like it's already reached that critical mass, that there are so many devices supporting that, and it's interoperable. Like if you have a phone, it works with your headset, it works with your car, it works with a speaker, and your car works with your phone and somebody else's phone, regardless of who makes them. And that creates that. So we are speaking one-stop certification, and also that certification guarantees interoperability cross-vendor. This is a completely new concept to the lighting industry, because all the systems today, they have been vendor locked in some way. You had to buy the controls from somebody.
Sure.
You couldn't take like sensors from one vendor, the control box from another vendor, and for example the drivers from yet another. It had to come like all from one. So of course that was not, we refer to that was not very democratic. You couldn't just like freely select any supplier, any component.
I also think, you know what? I also think it's antithetical to innovation. So, when you look at how innovation works, we were talking to D. Dentiner. Do you know that guy? He works at Philips. He's in charge of the Jaga Consortium. Okay.
Yes.
And we had a conversation with him, and he said, basically what came out of our conversation is that if the form factors of stuff are not set, then people are innovating the form factors, and it's like a waste of innovation. Like thinking about the form factor of something, the mechanical form factor of an LED strip is a waste. If everybody just said this is how it's going to be, and it's interesting because in the lighting business, the number one deployed LED technology, I'd say, Greg, if you agree with me on this, is the 4-foot LED T8 tube. That's by far the number one SKU sold. And the reason why so much innovation and so much so many great products have come out of that is because the form factor is set. It has to be 4 feet long, it has to have bipin tubes, and it has to fit in this kind of fixture. After that, everybody spends all their research and development money, all their resources making products that fit into that form factor. And if you're saying that, Bluetooth is a globally agreed upon radio standard from China, from Beijing to Washington to Brussels, and everywhere in between, then nobody has to worry about that. All they have to worry about is making great products and making great software.
Exactly. It's a very, very good point, and I couldn't agree more that it simplifies, because the lighting companies shouldn't be really worried or spend much time researching what technologies they should use. It's like if you want to build today a personal audio product, what connectivity technology would you use? You would use Bluetooth. That's kind of like entirely obvious, but you would spend your innovation time, efforts on the audio quality, on the form factor, because that would be the differentiators. And because the connectivity technology, it is almost invisible and transparent, and all you need to have guaranteed that it works reliably, secure, and it works with almost everything, because then your market for your particular product is much broader.
So you guys are a European software development company? Is that a good way to describe you guys?
Yes, so it's a little bit more complex. So we are an American company. We have a daughter company in Poland where I live, and this is our technology center. So the Silvair is incorporated in Delaware, and our HQ is in San Francisco, and this is where our BizDev and marketing teams are located. And of course, North America is our primary market. Historically, and for other reasons, the whole technology development is in Krakow in Poland. And this is where I live, and I'm the CTO, so I lead that team down in Krakow.
Just off topic, do you
yes.
guys speak English in the office or Polish?
A little bit Polish, but we are moving to English as much as we can. So of course, like BizDev team and products team, they speak English, and some smaller developer teams that, of course, if they think they talk only to each other within the team, they speak Polish. But then all the documents we produce in English, and that's also because our team is becoming more and more international. So we have one guy working for us remotely from India. We will have one more working for us remotely from Italy soon, and we have the product BizDev team in California as well, and we will have soon people on the East Coast as well. So the company from the communication perspective is completely transparent, so everybody can read everybody's meeting minutes and ask questions, and we have discussion forums, Slack and such. So yeah, English is becoming as native as possible.
Now, the one of the reasons we had you on the show is because you guys recently won an award at Light Fair. Can you explain what your system is and what you won that award for?
Yes, so that was really an exciting moment for us, one of the most exciting in the whole history of the company, because as you mentioned before, we are purely software. We don't do any hardware. So this is again the new normal in lighting business, right? So how can a purely software company be considered a lighting company? It's a new situation. So and this is how it really becomes today, that software becomes significant part of lighting systems. And so we are purely software, and basically we have two products. One product is the software that goes inside a physical component, like a light bulb, very rarely, because we are mostly focused on commercial systems. So it will be either a driver or a sensor or a wall station that uses our software. And we provide a complete software. It's called firmware. It's embedded software that is in that product. And we license that to product companies, to component manufacturers, like driver manufacturers and other manufacturers. The second product is what we call the Silvair platform, which is a system that consists of a web app and a phone app or a tablet app that offers easy commissioning and configuration of Bluetooth mesh-based lighting systems. So now, what is beautiful in between, so these two products are independent. The only contract between them is the Bluetooth mesh specification. So in other words, a customer who builds a sensor or a driver, licensing the software from us, is free to either make their own commissioning platform or offer that product on the market and then rely on the fact that the installer will select somebody else's platform, and that will work. That's the promise of Bluetooth interoperability. If you make headsets, they are supposed to work with any phone, right? And the same situation is with the platform product, that it is ready to accept any, not only ours, Bluetooth mesh compliant components, lighting components. So you can bring anything to the table. Our platform will happily commission it and make it part of the complete system.
Can I ask you,
yeah.
can I create just so I want to make sure I understand, like you said a lot there, and I just want to make sure that I understand it before we move forward to the next section. And I'm going to use comparison to do this. Okay. So you're basically building an operating system for devices that are networked lighting that's going to communicate using Bluetooth. And that operating system can be compared to, Microsoft Windows XP, that then people can develop apps to then run on that computer. So they can they're buying the firmware or whatever is embedded in the device, the ability to communicate with other devices and with other apps and to be controlled. That's one software you guys make. And that's kind of like an operating system for the device that communicates with other devices. And then you also have a software application that can run that and then do things with the various connected devices. But anyone can also make that kind of an application as well.
Yes, absolutely correct. Yes. So that application, it's mostly used to orchestrate the devices into a coherent system.
Right. But there's also a software behind it allowing you to do that in the first place. Is that correct? That's the firmware.
Yes.
And you guys have built both of those. And so you license the firmware to various manufacturers to then sell within their hardware. And then any development company can make an app to work with that platform, to work with that operating system.
Yes.
But you also make an app.
Yes, exactly.
Which part of your business earns more revenue?
Well, today, definitely the component or the firmware part is leading, because like we are, as you know, at the very beginning of the industry adoption of Bluetooth mesh as the preferred technology. So this is early. So first you have to have components, and then you can have products and revenues coming from services and such. So
Mm-hmm.
that cycle is pretty long, because it's first you engage with the component manufacturer, you work on the design. We have what we call reference designs. So we have some blueprints on how to build a connected mesh driver, or connected mesh sensor, or connected mesh workstation. And then we discussed that with the partner, what features they want, and we advise them how to build the hardware, but the hardware is theirs and they are making the final decisions. And then we provide them with the software, and then they are building components. This is hardware. This takes time. They need to bring them through certification, FCC, IC, also Bluetooth certification, which we help a lot with. And then they go to mass production. Then the components go to distribution. Then sales reps try to put those into projects. We need some pilot projects to showcase the technology. So it is getting up to speed, but as of now, components are there on the market. They are in mass production, so they are bringing the real revenue for us. Projects are effectively starting as we speak. So longer term, we believe there is much more potential in projects because of the value-added services, because it's not only about lighting control, it's much more.
Now you're going where I want to go. Go ahead, Greg.
I do need to ask one terminology-related question.
Yes.
You're saying Bluetooth mesh. Is that the same as Bluetooth, or is there a difference between Bluetooth mesh and Bluetooth?
Yes and no. Bluetooth uses one formal brand, which is Bluetooth, nothing else. But within Bluetooth, there are a number of technologies and a number of use cases. Bluetooth as such is 20 years old. It clicked 20 a year ago. And it started in 1999 with what we call today Bluetooth Classic. And the Classic is all about streaming audio. It's the main application. And this is what we continue using today. Then in 2010, so almost 10 years ago, it was a very important date for Bluetooth, because this was the year when another flavor of Bluetooth radio was brought to the standard, and we call it Bluetooth Low Energy. BLE, sometimes people refer to that. And Bluetooth Low Energy is used not for audio yet. It is used for all other use cases that Bluetooth can bring to mind. So first of all accessories like keyboards, mice, all connected activity trackers, smartwatches, that's all Bluetooth Low Energy. And both Bluetooth Classic and Bluetooth Low Energy until 2017 could only do point-to-point connections. So it was like a wireless replacement of a wire with two ends communicating two devices. Now Mesh changed all that. So Mesh uses Bluetooth Low Energy radio as the foundation, but then on top of that, it builds completely new topology. So instead of point-to-point two devices topology, you have the mesh network topology, which is thousands of devices. That's the difference, and that's how all those pieces are brought together. So for lighting, of course, we don't use the point-to-point thing, because you wouldn't be able to control more than a single light, or you wouldn't be able to control a group, or bring any significant number of devices together. So that's why Mesh was born. The initial use cases called for doing just that. And Mesh also does one other thing, because Bluetooth, as all other radios in this category, which we call short-range unlicensed spectrum radio category, they are fairly short range, as the name implies. So it's in the range of between 100 and 1,000 feet, roughly. Indoor, outdoor. Indoor, it typically penetrates one or two walls, depending on what the walls are made of. But Mesh extends the range because a signal can be relayed over multiple hops. So your light fixture not only receives signals, it also retransmits these signals further out if needed. So the mesh can span fairly vast areas, because as long as there's enough density of those relaying nodes in between. So we can do parking lots. We haven't done street lighting yet, but that's also not something unthinkable. It's like, from the technology perspective, it would be possible.
Why is there? It's interesting because lighting people seem to think that they say lighting control systems. I think the limiting factor is the word lighting in that. What is it that, lighting control, why is it that lighting people see lighting as the gateway or the entry into the Internet of Things? It seems like everyone in the lighting business is, lighting's the gateway to IoT. Lighting is going to be the first thing that everyone goes after. Is it logical that it's lighting, or is there another place to start?
I think it's absolutely logical, and it's a consequence of very strong trend of LEDification. So Greg, you mentioned you were just installing an LED upgrade system, and that's exactly what's happening, like around the planet. Because the energy savings coming, or like other savings coming from the fact that you move away from fluorescent or halogen, you move to LED. These benefits are there, and then those replacement or upgrade projects, they happen once every 10, 15 years, right? That's roughly the time span. So there is only so this presents this opportunity, so that together with the upgraded light fixtures, you install something more, because you disassemble this ceiling and then you put the new products in. And if that product has computing power, if it's connected, if it has capability of run other applications, that's why IoT uses lighting, I would say, as a Trojan horse to get into the ceiling, because of the LEDification, of the underlying trend of LEDification. Now, the other property of lights is that they form very dense network in buildings, especially. So buildings are not penetrated by the outdoor technologies, especially GPS technologies. Satellites don't reach indoors. So you need something else, because basically buildings today are like black boxes. They are like, you don't know, like, for example, from the facility manager's perspective, you don't know what's happening inside. With outdoor technologies, like you pull a phone, you launch Google Maps, and you see the traffic, right? You see the red streets, and you see congestion, and you see other things. You see your buddies if you're linked to them, and such. You move indoors, and then that's all gone, because there's no connectivity technology that covers interiors of buildings. So lighting is a great opportunity to get that technology into the buildings. And then when it's there, of course, you can start, like, it's all connected. You can look into that, like, this is a sensor, right? It looks like a sensor, but it's a computer. It's a connected computer. So you can install applications on it remotely. So at some point in time, you can consider them as connected computing nodes, and then you just think of, okay, I would take that other application, which could be as simple as Bluetooth beacon, or it could be something more sophisticated, and you deploy it over the mesh network, and then your building is kind of upgraded.
Does Bluetooth, though, you need to have external radio antennas, do you not?
Well, there has to be an antenna, and the form factor for the antenna may be very different. So this product, for example, it's not visible here, but it has a metal ring inside here. So the antenna is really small, and it can be hidden very nicely. There are cheap antennas that are few millimeters long and wide, and we don't really like indoors. The density of these Bluetooth mesh nodes is pretty high, so I would say we have almost the opposite problem, that the range is too high, because very often a device in one part of the building shouldn't interfere with other devices transmitting or talking in the other parts of the building. So if the range is too high, you simply don't have that capacity of the system. So on many occasions, we even prefer to limit the range of the radio. So antennas are really not a problem here.
And so your tool is or your commissioning tool is designed to operate like an app on your phone, so anybody can easily commission a Bluetooth mesh lighting system. It doesn't matter the brand. Is that correct?
Yes, that's exactly the app. So actually, the entire tool is a two-stage system. So the first stage is the planning stage, which you can do anytime. You don't need to be on site. You can pre-plan, and it's like typically you use a floor plan, a reflective floor plan for that. That's your starting point. But you can even start drawing a square box, and you work with that tool using a web browser. So it's a fully web-based system, and that planning stage involves deciding really what scenarios you want to have in that facility. So whether it's a corridor with windows, or a conference room with projection, with windows, no windows, all those behaviors. And typically after, so we provide a couple of default templates for that. Those templates can be customized, and then you can reuse them from project to project to project. So that's your work that you do up front, and your building does not even need to exist. And then the second phase uses the app. So the app is needed on site. So you enter on site, the app connects to that cloud system, pulls the configuration that you prepared up front, and then over the Bluetooth that is built into the phone, the app distributes that configuration to all the lighting nodes, and then you're done, basically. And you can also use the phone, the app, to do fine tuning, like sensor calibration. So a sensor is always reading the light that is reflected off the surface. So if I'm at a white desk today, that reflection is higher. If my desk or the floor is dark, then the reflection is lower. So in some occasions, you want to calibrate the sensor readings, and you use the app for that as well.
And the benefit of doing this over the a lot of the current Bluetooth control systems have their own commissioning tool. They don't always have an app, but if they have an app, what's the benefit of using your version versus one that's designed for that system?
Well, the key difference is this interoperability. So we believe our app is the first on the market that fully supports the Bluetooth Mesh standard, including all the lighting, we call them models. So Bluetooth Mesh defines, like in audio, you have the thing called codec. It is responsible for how your audio is encoded. So in Bluetooth Mesh, we have the lighting model, which defines all the behaviors like dimming, like color tuning, like daylight harvesting, and other behaviors of lights. And because the standard is quite strict on those, then our app supports all of them. And that means that any end product that is compliant, implements all those requirements, can work with our app. So that there's this interoperability story. So up until now, and yeah, this is still happening, companies are using Bluetooth in a proprietary way. So for example, just recently, but that just makes our case stronger, I think. Just recently, Philips Signify released a new version of their infamous Hue light bulbs consumer product that is now hubless because it contains Bluetooth. So what they do is the new Hue light bulbs, they have the radio they were using before and a Bluetooth radio. So they have basically two in one. And Bluetooth is used to make take advantage of this direct app to product communication. It's basically only Bluetooth is the only technology that allows your app to talk to a thing today. And because that's possible, the app really makes the whole thing simpler to deal with.
You know, it's funny because when I was a lot younger, I ran into this business guru, and he made a comment that I found very, very intuitive, and I believe it's his own line. And I'm going to segue into cell phone adoption with this, and then I want you to answer the question. So he always said that change cannot occur until the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change. Okay? And so what we've seen, you know, in my career in the lighting business is the customer is largely resisting lighting control systems in a sense because of the long paybacks, right? Because the change was more painful than staying the same, right? And if you want to get someone to change, you have to highlight their current pain and make the change really easy, right? And so, for example, a lot of people will say, you know, humans are dumb. They don't change. They don't want to change when they're complaining about why they can't sell their product or service to people. But it's probably because the benefits are not obvious and the payback is slow. So I actually believe that you know, us humans will change very, very quickly if the benefits are obvious and the change is easy. And I think cell phones are a testament to that, like how quickly people went from desktop computers to laptop computers to cell phones to smartphones to these changes, because it's painful for them not to have the latest device. It's socially painful. The apps don't work. They can't communicate with their friends the fastest way. They can't do all the things they want to do with that they can with a new smartphone. What is it with the lighting industry? What is it going to take, or do you have the secret sauce, or what is it going to take to really see mass adoption of Bluetooth mesh network? Not by future proofing, because future proofing is an excuse to sell something somebody doesn't need or doesn't want. Like that, when you say I'm going to future proof the system, it's kind of like, well, I don't need it because it's not obvious right now what it's good for. What is it going to take for this technology to cascade through the lighting world so that, you know, in 5 years, the adoption rate goes from whatever, 3% to 40% or 50% or something like that? What is it going to take, Simon?
I think the ease of installation is the highest barrier today. So if you think, and that translates in some way to the cost of the system, and of course, the price of the system components today is also high. So we believe that with using Bluetooth mesh technology, we can address those two pain points. So first of all, the ease of use. It's as easy as using your app, and we believe we will keep on improving for years to come to make it easier and easier and easier, because we will be getting more feedback and more feedback and more feedback from the market and iterating. You know how this all works with the apps. So every new version of the app is supposed to address some pain points of some users, and the beauty of apps is that you really have all the statistics, so you know what people are doing with them. So you can. That's the beauty of connected products. That connectivity also brings you the ability to iterate and making your product better. So today we are absolutely addressing the pain point of the learning curve for installing and commissioning, configuring lighting control systems, because this is huge pain point. This is why people don't want to do that, and those who do are expensive. So that's the first thing that we are addressing. The second is the price of the components or the system components themselves. So of course, like 10 years, 8 years, 6 years is not going to change anything. We need to get down to 2 years, maybe even 1 year. Then it will become so low that it will be a no-brainer to implement, because the the immediate benefits, like even the flexibility of changing the settings or things like comfort will be enough to cover this little extra cost. We just need to get with this cost down, and wireless makes that possible. And also what we haven't touched upon, but I think it's very important, and what really differentiates Bluetooth controls from Bluetooth mesh controls from other approaches today is that in Bluetooth mesh there is no controller, there is no control box. Like typically when you think control system, there is something. There
Like
is
a router somewhere or something. A router or something.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we got rid of that. So our observation was that that controller is a computer. It runs software. Now, the computers that are systems on chip that could be put inside these components are capable of doing the same. So why don't we take that software from that control box and put a copy of it inside each little guy? Because, one copy of a given software or 100 copies, the cost is the same, right? So you can take the advantage of multiplicating that software on the lighting nodes, and then the controller node is no longer necessary in this architecture. So we are getting rid of that box, and we don't need a cabinet for it, and we don't need to wire it, and we don't need to program that, because
And you don't need to pay for the energy to run it.
Yes, and it also brings very important aspect as well, which is no point of failure, because that box, if it died, your lighting system died as well. So that was this traditional architecture in lighting systems. So to address that problem, of course, companies were introducing redundant controllers, but that was bringing the cost up, and it wasn't easy to solve. Now, what Bluetooth mesh does, it behaves like what we refer to as a collectively intelligent system. So you think of colony of ants or a flock of birds or a school of fish. So each node knows which nodes are the neighbors and how to coordinate with them. That's the beauty of that. So if something goes wrong, it typically goes wrong with just one light, and the rest even can compensate for it. So for example, if your light level that you want to maintain in daylight harvesting scenario is like 300 lux, and then it's already getting dark outside, and then one fixture goes out. Now, the other fixtures in the area can increase their output a little to compensate for the lost one. And then if the lost one comes back online, they can equalize. So this is how it behaves. And that really like brings simplicity, brings the costs down, and brings the, I would say, ultimate reliability to that system.
You know what? It's interesting, Greg. And I'm going to ask a question to Greg here, and then maybe you can comment on it, Simon. We'll see where we go. I think the real takeoff point for this, when it gets past the early adopter or the fancy smancy kind of guys or the new construction, Greg, is when guys like me and you are installing Bluetooth mesh systems every day.
I would agree with that. I think when it brings it down to the street level where we're on an everyday basis on existing buildings, then yes, it's going to take off.
Like
absolutely.
Right now, you wouldn't find. I'll tell you, if there's a lot of guys, I guess there's a lot of nailed members that are doing some form of this, Greg, but it's not typical. Mm-hmm. Most people that do what we do every day, which is renovate existing lighting systems in people's buildings, when controls come up, you'll say, you know what, that gets in the way of the payback. When people like us, the people who listen to this show, are hot on Bluetooth mesh, that's when you know it's going to go for sure. because we make money selling people payback in months or return on investment. That's what closes all of our deals.
Yeah, of course, that will be an awesome indicator of our success. But I'm more scratching up my head, like thinking of how to get there and what needs to be done on our side. And of course, like availability of components. So this is being taken care of now because the components are now in distribution. So you can go to distributors and luminaire manufacturers can source them from single sources like global distribution companies. And we also need to take care of this ease of installation and use and smooth learning curve as flat as possible. And also what would be great, and I can say it's coming, can't say more, but we need some globally recognizable brands betting on that. And that's coming.
I think there's something else you need too. It's interesting, and maybe I'll talk to you about it after we finish the show. But something occurred to me that I think might be interesting for you as well. Greg, anything else for Simon? I think we had a great conversation.
I do too. Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept and something that we all need to get our head around and be ready for. So hopefully, the Bluetooth really does take off and everybody runs with that, then we can start getting systems in that have Bluetooth and then commission and do the censoring. Let's go. I'm ready.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Simon. AeonLEDlighting.com, man. They got some monster floods, Greggy. Monster!
Yeah, monster. And they look pretty cool too. They got a nice little green trim around them if you can see them on the screen right now. But they have a 230 watt up to a 750 watt. And the 750 watt brings out 105,000 lumens.
Woo.
You need 105,000 lumens, they have it. If you need 33,000 lumens, they have that too. You need something in between, they have it. 5 different options of floods for extreme conditions. Anything outdoor, this is your flood to go.
The monster floods.
The monster.
The monster floods. Prison yard level. Boom! Taking everybody out.
And glare-free optics. Come on, man. 105,000 lumens of glare-free optics. It's best you get.
Go to AeonLEDlighting.com. That's AeonLEDlighting.com, Greggy. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's NALD.org. And of course, Greggy, we love Simon Slupick. Thank you for coming on the show, telling us all about the awesome things that are happening with IoT and the collision of information and lighting. Woo!
Written on the rectory wall, there's a sign there for all. You are lost, Lord is there to find you.